Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. Yay, we're here again. Hi, my name's Stu and welcome to another review video on Flying Wiener. Now I know there's a lot of hate on Zack Snyder on the internet and I feel that a lot of it is really over-exaggerated, etc. But I do feel it important, just like with my review for the first part of Rebel Moon, to stress that I genuinely, I'm a fan of Zack Snyder's work overall, right? There's a lot of things on this channel that are by him. Batman v Superman is one of my favourite comic book films of all time. I enjoy it to this day. I feel like it was made for me. I get a lot of the criticisms with all of his films, but generally speaking, I really enjoy them, right? Dawn of the Dead, Watchmen, 300, Batman v Superman, and Man of Steel, to me are all really good films. I also liked Army of the Dead quite a lot. So there you go. So just to preface this is not, oh, there's another Zack Snyder hater. No, I'm genuinely disappointed because I had hoped and expected a lot more from this thing. Because if you're not familiar, Rebel Moon is like Zack Snyder's big legacy project, I'll call it. He's been wanting to make this story for a long time. He originally had an idea to pitch as a Star Wars story. Now I'm not sure if whether Disney rejected it or whether it not even got to that stage. Doesn't matter. Ultimately, I must say, as also a Star Wars fan, I'm thankful that this is not a Star Wars story. So, you know, I went into this open-minded just like I did the first one, but overall, I must say, it really did not win me over, and now there'll be the reports that there are going to be between another 2 and 4 films, depending on whether the next 2 stories are also going to be split into 2-parters and stuff, and I'm like, okay, Netflix really does not care anymore about throwing money at the wall, apparently. While the viewership numbers, as I understand, have been really good, the critical reception has not been. It's actually even worse for this part than the first one, which I found surprising, because if I had to, you know, put both films on a scale, I would actually think that this film is better, because to me it just seems more overall just a better package, because it seems more focused, right? That's how I would summarize it. But we're going to talk about it, we're going to get into it. So if you haven't seen Rebel Moon, the first one, this is about a galaxy where you have got an evil empire or imperium or whatever they call themselves, and they are oppressing a lot of people. We are focused on a planet where there's a group of farmers. Now, and this is one of my main things, but I'll come to that later. They're like 200 people on this farm, and they are supposed to provide the grain for this imperium. And we saw in the first film our main character, Cora, she is played by Sofia Boutella. She gathers this group of people in the hopes of just building a fighting group to resist against this empire. And that's how the first film ended. I mean, there was obviously a dramatic showdown with the Admiral from the Imperium, played by Ed Skrein, and all these things, but we knew, okay, here in the second part, there's going to be a battle to sort of decide, you know, who gets to have the grain, basically. And this is what we see here. So we've got our warriors, our group here on this planet. They're training the villagers, the baddies, the villains. They are coming in their ship, you know, to come and get the grain. And that is basically what this film is about. That's all I really need to tell you about the plot, because that's all it really is. So we've got a group of mercenaries basically helping a group of farmers fight off a fascist evil empire. Which, you know, that's one of the things, I mean, it sounds great on paper. It's like, yeah, I mean, how can you not appreciate this story or what it's going for? Because yes, of course that's a good thing. It's just, to me, it still feels very ridiculous. I mentioned that in my my review for the first part as well. It all feels so small in scale. There's this galactic empire, and we're supposed to believe that they care so much about the grain that a village of 200 people can produce, you know, and the whole story revolves around it. It's really silly. You know, I mean, I am sure that in the next parts the story is going to be something quite different, but as far as parts 1 and 2 are concerned, this is what we're supposed to care about. you know, I mean, this evil empire, they could just subjugate the whole planet, conquer it, and just, you know, just force these people to do the same work as slaves, etc. The whole thing makes no sense whatsoever. There are a lot of things here that make very, very little sense. But that's my main gripe with it. For us to believe that this is a big universe, etc., we're focused on such a tiny, small issue. It's quite ridiculous, really. So yeah, I don't like that aspect of it. Like I said, I feel overall that this film is actually better, just because in the first one you had all this jumping from one place to the next, and we're collecting the next member of this mercenary group, and then we're jumping to the next planet, see a backstory, then they join the group, and that kept going. Didn't really do much for me. I feel that here at least we've got a better focus, because, you know, we're on the planet, they're learning about the villagers, they're training them, and we've got the big showdown towards the end. You know, it's, at least in that way, it's a lot more focused. The characters I really still don't care about, because we were only given a brief introduction to all of them in the first part. Here in the second part, they've actually got a scene where they're all just sitting on the table and like, what are you fighting for? You know, why are you here, and what is your backstory? And then so for the next like 10 minutes, we go through character for character, and we're shown some some of their background, so big exposition dumps, and you're going like, okay, fine, still don't care about them, you know, because it's just, there are not really many moments between the characters or anything. It's just like you're told to care about these characters, and for me that's not enough. You know, you see some cool scenes like you always do in Zack Snyder's films. They do not make me care about people. I want to see them do something that actually makes me care about them, and not to be told you care about them because they've had a tragic backstory, because they have all of them had, right? So that's one of the things. You've got the fights themselves, which generally speaking are fine. I mean, Zack Snyder is known for his action, and I did appreciate quite a lot of the action in this film. Sophia Boutella in the first one, I didn't like some of the choreography that she had. I felt it was a bit better in this one. There's a particularly over-the-top scene towards the end where two people are sort of, let's call it, falling through a spaceship. I felt that was very creative and at least very fun. But apart from that, the battle itself seemed very ridiculous. Again, we're talking about Star Wars levels here. That's at least the idea that they want you to have, where you've got huge armies fighting each other at times. And here we're talking about a group of 200 farmers plus 10 mercenaries or so fighting against 200 soldiers. So it's a really, really small battle. You know, when you think about even history, from medieval ages, etc., their battles were a lot bigger than this, you know, so it's so funny. It feels so small in scale. And while the fight scenes themselves are quite okay, some things really took me out of it. There's one character, he likes to run around with axes, because of course when everyone is shooting with laser guns, you try and defend yourself with 2 axes. But because, and this is a very main thing I'm going to get into in a minute, because of all the slow motion that goes on, you see everything in a lot more detail. And in his case, for instance, you could see in a very, very prominent shot that he is just hitting his, obviously not real axe, he's just hitting it on someone, and it feels like the bluntest object ever. So you know, these things I don't like, because I mean, obviously he can't actually pierce the guy's skin with an axe, but then at least digitally make it to look like he's actually done it, not that it goes bong, you know, because that's what you see. I was like, really, you know. A lot of other things are silly, like there's they hide, the group of rebels, they hide, and the soldiers are so surprised when they burst out of a barn door. It's like, they even talk about it, right, they're going to be hiding and all these things, but they're still very surprised. They come from over this way, and the soldiers just then suddenly surprisedly go, oh, where I'm thinking, these are supposed to be trained soldiers, you know, they would be going battle ready, you know, really sharpened senses, aware of where the next enemy's coming. They're just walking over this bridge and suddenly, oh, enemies, boom, and get shot. And it's just like, really? These are farmers, they've been taught for like 3 days how to do this, you know, really silly. I talked about the slow motion. I enjoy slow motion. I feel that Zack Snyder does it really well. Same as with part 1, it's just used too much here, because I feel that we're wasting so much time of the film where we could actually be showing something interesting, you know, develop the stories or character in some way, but instead it's like, it's like as if they've got a clock and they're like, right, we have to wait another 20 seconds and then we can finally do a slow motion shot again. And they're just too many. You've got people, you know, just not even doing interesting things. One of the funniest scenes is like, and I think there was a comment somewhere, even by Zack Snyder, it's like, you know, he wants to show that slow motion. It's not just for cool action, it's for meaningful things. We see in the start that you see the mercenaries with the farmers and they're farming the grain, and it's like, okay, I get it, you know, we're being shown the emotional weight of the story. This is what we're fighting for. These farmers, you know, and their grain, and this is their way of life, etc. I get that. But this scene goes on for so long, and there's so many slow motion shots of people dropping a bunch of grain on the ground and stuff like that. It feels really silly. But you know, that was fine. It's just too much. But even in the fight scenes themselves, I was like, you know, it's just like, you're sitting there, to me already at this point, it's getting very distracting because I'm like, oh, and there's another slow motion, you know, instead of, because it really takes me out of the moment, because like, I get that you focus more on various parts of the scene, of the shot, but it's just too much. It's just too much that it's, there's not enough there for it to justify being this slow so often, you know. I feel that various scenes would actually be better if it's just really abrupt and you're like, oh God, you know, this is happening really quickly because it's all just moving so slowly, you know. One thing I will give it is the budget combined, to my knowledge, for both parts was $166 million, which is very little. I will say that, for that, the film looks amazing. There are some shots where like, okay, this is very clearly a stage or a green screen or that, so it didn't feel real, you know, at times. But in other parts, it looks and feels really good, so I do appreciate that. The look is okay. Like I say, the characters this time were a bit better, but I still don't really care for them. You know, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. There's some scenes that are just really, really silly. The motivations of characters are really weird. You know, if you go through it trying to think about it logically, like an Imperium would be, a lot of their things do not make any sense. So they're really, really stupid. You know, it's like, oh, they won't bomb the planet because, or the village from their spaceship because then they might destroy the grain. I'm like, why does this Imperium care about the grain produced by 200 people? Surely they've got a lot more food sources in the whole galaxy. Never mind, yeah. So, like I say, overall I feel this is a better film because it feels like it's more focused, but still I'm really not into this franchise, and I suppose we'll see what happens next. That'll be all from me today. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. It is the best way to support this channel. Leave a comment down below. Call me a Zack Snyder hater if you want to. As I said, I am generally not. I give the man a fair chance. He didn't convince me this time. Or with the first part, you know. But anyway, anything you want to say, put it down in the comments below. I'll thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one on Flying Wiener. Take care, bye.